Okay, so coincidentally, this has actually been showing up on the diploma exams a little as one question typically only, okay, but it does show up every so often. So basically, Mendel came up with the following laws or principles or hypotheses, okay? So inherited traits are controlled by factors. Back in the day, he called them factors, but now we know them as genes, okay, which occur in pairs. Very important, okay? So kind of similar to how we see our chromosomes or our sister chromatids get together. In a way, they're kind of like in little pairs, right? So that's kind of how this works out, although it changes up once you do some sort of crossing over, okay? So everything that you have in genes comes in pairs. So for example, if we're talking about blonde hair, okay, blonde hair would code with two separate little genes in there, okay? So, or sorry, not separate genes, but little pairs of like that gene that's going to tell me to make blonde hair, okay? I'm totally like stereotypical towards the blondes. I feel we are smart deep on the inside, okay? Deep on the inside. Okay? One factor gene may mask the other, and that's exactly what we saw with those pea plants, okay? There was some sort of dominance effect occurring in the process, okay? So this is a principle of dominance and recessiveness. So sometimes an actual trait could potentially disappear in one of our generations because one of the traits could be dominant, one of them could be recessive, okay? Recessive means like the weaker one of the two, unfortunately. Dominant, like the name indicates. All right. Now, a pair of genes is separated when gametes, okay, form. So heterozygotes, okay, which we'll talk about in a second what that actually means, produce equal number of gametes having two different alleles, okay? So the law of segregation, this is what this is, okay? So basically, when you actually produce your gametes, okay, your eggs or your sperm or whatever, okay, you're basically going to separate each of those little entities or those genes out, okay? So when you have, let's say, a code for blonde hair, I have it as a set of two. So those are actually going to separate out when you produce gametes. And the kind of idea behind that is that when you go from a diploid organism, blonde-haired organism, okay, one half of my genes are likely to show up in like an egg cell or let's say a sperm cell. Not personally, not a sperm cell, obviously. Okay? So that's the law of segregation. So we assume everything is going to separate, and everything kind of has like equal opportunity, okay? So this is kind of like the fourth part. So we assume that everything has equal likelihood of being produced, okay? Now in reality that actually doesn't happen, but in this whole principle of inheritance, okay, mind you, there's a lot of other factors that come into play as well when you want to try to like actually produce these gametes with all these different sets of chromosomes and different sets of genes inside of them, okay? We are going to assume that everything has equal opportunity to be picked out, okay? Because sometimes that actually doesn't work out that way. Okay, another good example too with like eye color. Eye color is like, we're gonna like super break it down super easily, but in reality, eye color has so many other factors that kind of come into play. It's not as easy as kind of getting brown eyes or blue eyes and that's it. There's all these different shades in between, okay?